Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Planet X News, March 16th, 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we're going to be talking about the central United States river observations. They are getting to a very, very critical stage. Now, as I mentioned in my last live stream, and that was pertaining to this bomb cyclone that had formed over the central part of the United States, and literally did a lot of damage. I had mentioned that some of what I was seeing related to the weather following this bomb cyclone was going to involve a very rapid warm-up. Now, I'm not talking about temperatures, in the 70s or 80s, but temperatures high enough to create instant and immediate snow melt. And here we are a couple of days after this bomb cyclone made its devastating way across the United States. And we have very, very serious conditions already brewing over the last 48 hours in many states in the central part of the United States. I'm going to go over a lot of this information with you, and I'm going to be showing you what is occurring and what is going to occur. And at this point in time, folks, if you live in any of these states that I'm going to be mentioning, well, this should be the time for the alarm bells to go off. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up the live chat and give everybody a few minutes to get their lightning fast notifications from YouTube, and we'll get moving straight on into this information. Now, I've been watching this very, very closely over the last couple of days, and, to be honest with you folks, I was hoping that I was going to be wrong. But again, like I said, I've been a weather watcher for more than 25 years. And I watch the weather every single day. I get reports from all across the United States and from around the world. And there are parts of Europe that are going to be undergoing some very, very serious changes. There is catastrophic flooding in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And we're going to continue to see these types of situations continue as the weeks and the months go by throughout the spring. Now, I'm not going by any kind of farmer's almanac, but I'm going based on my observations and what I'm seeing. And I follow this jet stream very, very carefully. And the way that I do my observations, folks, it's really not that hard if you understand a little bit about the weather. You can kind of see and forecast what is about to happen if you do a little bit of research. But the map that you see on your screen right now, all of those little red dots, those are river reporting stations that are already at or above flood stage. Very critical situations brewing in several states. Nebraska, wow, Nebraska wasn't even on my radar. I apologize. I didn't even really think too much about Nebraska and any type of flood situation, but it has occurred. Iowa, there's a lot of damage in Iowa. There were several small dam breaches and levee breaches. And, a lot of these areas are relatively flat, and the water just spreads out very rapidly, and the situation was quite devastating. The problem is we are only at March 16th on the calendar. Some of these river observation centers are predicting that the floodwaters will not start to recede until the 23rd of March. That's a long time. when you're dealing with a flood situation. You would, kind of hope that the flood would come in. Yeah, you're going to have some water, some flooding, and maybe within 48 hours or less, the water goes down. But that's not the case, because we started to have this rapid warm up. Now, a lot of you know I'm over in the Pittsburgh area, southwestern Pennsylvania. The other day, we had a high temperature of 75 degrees. Just came out of nowhere. And it was pretty intense. I mean, and then right after that, we had another one of these windstorms, 40 to 50 miles an hour. I mean, it was pretty wild. Heavy downpours of rain. The rain moved off, and the wind continued. And in our area, because we have such saturated ground from this past winter and, receiving a lot of rain throughout the winter, there was a lot of trees, once again, that were falling, crashing over roadways, tearing down power lines. It just created an absolute mess for about 3 days. But folks, that's just not happening in my neck of the woods. That's happening all through the Appalachian Valley, the Ohio Valley. It's happening everywhere. I talked to a good friend of mine over in central Ohio, and they had a part of that storm cell that came over central Ohio, and there were a lot of people that thought it was like a hurricane coming over top of their state. So again, these are situations that we're going to have to be aware of, hopefully before they strike. Now, once again, there was some very traumatic weather in the South, Texas, Alabama again. It got up into Missouri, Tennessee. There were a lot of states that got damaged. Now, luckily, that storm front moved through, and it moved through rapidly. But, that has good things and bad things about it. The good thing is it comes in, it moves through very rapidly, but these storm fronts, and it was very long, very, very long storm front. It stretched, I believe, about 1,000 miles diagonally right across from Texas all the way up to Ohio, and then it just moved in a nice line right across to the East Coast. And then it started to dissipate. I was watching that bomb cyclone on the GOES 16 weather radar satellite, and I got to tell you, folks, that thing looked like a hurricane. It looked very ominous. It was a nasty, nasty looking storm. And I was hoping and praying that it kind of got caught up in that jet stream and upper level winds and just sheared it apart. And that's kind of what happened. It looked like it was heading for the state of Wisconsin and possibly moving across some of the Great Lakes into Michigan and up into Canada. And, it could have been pretty devastating for those folks up there if it stayed organized. Well, luckily for this erratic jet stream, it tore it apart and sent it on its way. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of these river observations, because, folks, this is going to lead to a lot of catastrophic damage with the flooding. And I mentioned last week during that live stream, I showed all of you this specific area, and I mentioned from what I was seeing, this area was going to be inundated with floods, and to be prepared and to watch out. There's something else that I'm very, very concerned about, and that is the state of Minnesota. We're looking at some temperature increases over the course of the next 10 days. And this polar vortex of air that we see coming down through the central part of the United States is already receded. It's already receded back up into Canada. So that means that's going to allow this jet stream to push warmer air from the South Pacific right across Los Angeles and right across the central part of the United States, bringing in very, very warm air, very moderate air. And that moderate air is going to be nice to feel for all of those folks out there in the Midwest that have been buried in snow. But it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out if you've got 3 feet of snow on the ground and all of a sudden your temperatures go from, 25 to 30 degrees straight up to 60 or 70, well, there you go. You have a very, very catastrophic situation, especially around the Denver, Colorado area. Well, basically the entire state of Colorado. Because of the mountains, if that warmer air kind of rises, gets up over a mile, well, you are going to have snow melt, and the water is going to come down out of those mountains. And what's at the base of all of those mountains? Communities, towns, cities, people. So again, over the next 7 to 10 days, I would say just about everybody in the United States is going to be affected by weather in one way or another. And we really do need to keep our eye on it, depending on where you live. But there's going to be some very, very critical areas. The entire Mississippi Valley, the entire Mississippi region is going to be a main target naturally, because as you can see on the map in front of you, the majority of all those rivers in the upper central part of the United States, a lot of them lead and connect right into the Mississippi River, flowing all the way down into the Gulf of Mexico. And folks, there's only so much water that they could release simultaneously and systematically to keep this under control. So we're going to have some issues. We are already starting to watch very carefully in the Pittsburgh area because we have mountains to the south of us. And the main river where the water flow comes from the mountains, kind of weird, but that river flows north. And it flows north right through my community and right into the city of Pittsburgh. The Monongahela River is one of few rivers that flows north. So with rapid heating in the Laurel Highlands and the Appalachian Mountains, well, that water is going to make its way all the way down through all those streams and tributaries right into the Monongahela River. That river is going to rise. We do have a series of locks and dams on our river, but again, they cannot withstand massive increases of water volume. Even though they'll open up all of the locks, you have to be very careful, because if you open them up too much, the communities between the two locks, well, you're going to flood them out really bad and very rapidly. So it's a systematic game that they have to play, and we've seen catastrophes like that in my area. And one mistake, one miscalculation by any of these operators and engineers that work in these locks and dams, these areas, one miscalculation, and it's devastating. We had a situation like that when I was a teenager. One miscalculation from one engineer at a lock south of us opened up too many of the gates. It was in the middle of the night. Nobody knew about it, and it was absolutely devastating. You had communities where I live where their houses were halfway underwater, up to their porch roofs. So you're looking at 12 to 16 feet of water. And it was devastating. When I was a teenager, my grandmother's house was a victim of that flood, and it was unrecoverable. It was just absolutely devastating. So these are the situations that we're looking at, and we're going to go ahead and jump into some of this real quick. And I'm going to show you guys what I've been looking at here. And this is just the National Weather Center's river observation forecast. And if any of you guys, I'm going to go ahead and blow this up a little bit, but if any of you guys want to follow this, if you just go to Google and type in National Weather Service, river levels, river flooding, this map will usually come up. And they have one that is from NOAA, and they also have one that is from the USGS. They're very, very similar. And you can actually put your cursor on the little dots, and it will tell you the actual reporting location, the state, the station code, and the actual river and the state. So, and if you click on it, it will give you more information. Well, we'll go ahead and click on one here. And it will zoom in for you. And then you will see on the gauge over here, where you see the red moderate flooding. Okay, but you see all of these purple. These purple dots are major flooding. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, just in this region that I've pulled up, you have 9 rivers that are in major flood stage. 9. And then in the red, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So you have 13 locations where you are in moderate flooding. And this is only the beginning. So it's a good idea to keep this map maybe on your browser or in your favorites on your computer. And, maybe check it a couple times a day or maybe twice a day if you're living in these regions where you're going to have this potential flooding. So if you kind of pan out, this will give you a block of the section that I'm looking at and the gauge right here. And again, folks, it's not very hard to use. It's relatively simple. And you can pan in and out on it, and you can pick regions, and you could really move in close by zooming in, and you can get as much info as you can and timelines on when the flooding is going to occur in your specific area along the river or tributary that you live near. So we're going to go ahead and bump out of that. And what I have here, I'm going to go ahead and just zoom in a little bit on here. We're going to open this up a little bit. This is simply an animation map, and this is produced by NOAA. And this is an animation of flood and high flow conditions for the month of February. Okay, all of those little black triangles that you see, those are areas that were at or above flood stage. Okay, now that was just for the month of February. And you could see where this flood location is. Now, there was some minor activity in the state of Idaho, few states out west, Oregon, Northern California. You can see as the map shows you over in this section for Northern California, you'll see those, and it goes by date. So this is a pretty good tool. I look at this all the time, especially when we get around the period where we're going to be observing floods. And this will show you, I mean, you could see all of this area. As I mentioned in the beginning of the winter time, that this whole entire section, all of this around the East Coast, all of this area was not going to have a very, very bad winter as far as snow and cold temperatures. It was going to be mainly wet. And that was just what I was observing with the flow of the jet stream. And, you know, not trying to pat myself on the back, but I was 100% correct in my forecast of what was going to occur. And once again, leading into this spring, we're only about a week away from the spring equinox. We may have a late spring. We may have an early spring. It's really, really hard to say. I'm hoping that it's moderate as far as temperature rise goes, because that's what's going to cause a boatload of flooding. No pun intended with the boatload thing, but it's not looking good is what I'm trying to say. And this was just for the month of February. So you can see where this centralized flooding was. Now we're going to go ahead and jump to March, and we'll let this go ahead and postulate here. Now you're going to start to see these areas right up here. Bingo. And this was something that I was hoping did not occur. I'm talking about this area right up here. And as you can see, March 11th, 12th, 13th, boom, 13th, 14th, 15th. So the data will update on this tomorrow and the next day. And I can guarantee you that this whole entire section is going to just turn black with the reporting stations, the little black triangles. This is actually going to start moving further east over the next week. We're going to see more and more flooding, definitely within my area, definitely along the rivers in West Virginia, down through Kentucky, definitely down through Tennessee. It may occur a little bit later in the western portions of Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina, maybe towards the end of the month. And that's when we're looking at this this sudden warm-up. And this warm-up is all due to a shift in the jet stream. Now, in some ways you can say that it's a good shift because it's going to bring warm, moderate weather, warm, moderate air, but it's going to happen too fast because there's too much snow on the ground. And again, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out if you add 50, 60, 70 degree temperatures to areas that have, you know, a lot of snow still on the ground and frozen lakes, frozen streams, partially frozen rivers, well, what's going to happen? Now, we've already seen this situation with the frozen rivers in Iowa. I mean, they had chunks of ice. Some of them were 15 to 20 feet by 20 feet and about a foot thick that broke off into slabs and were flowing freely, crashing into houses because of the floodwaters. They had to bring in tractors and small, front loaders, bobcats, to move them out of the way and pile them up, because you don't want something like that literally flowing through your town like a mini iceberg and smashing into houses, smashing into, just imagine if it smashed into, fuel pumps at a gas station. Maybe even if they had them turned off. But they can do catastrophic damage, and I'm going to show you guys some of what happened out there. And these folks are not out of the woods, man. Say a prayer for them. That's all I can say. because that situation in those states, Iowa, Indiana, Illinois, I mean, it is not Nebraska. And you could see all the little gray lines that look like veins. Those are all of the major rivers. So you see that a lot of them are connected in some way or another. And a lot of them connect to the Mississippi. So again, all of that water is going to be flowing south over time. And I think that once we move through the month of March and into April, depending on this jet stream and how everything pans out, I'm hoping and praying that we don't have catastrophic downpours of rain through this region, because if we do, this flooding's not going to stop. It is going to continue. It may continue all the way through the entire springtime here in the United States. And, you know, I apologize to any of our European viewers or South American viewers that I'm concentrating on what's happening here in the United States. But folks, you know, our brothers and sisters down in South America, they're getting inundated also in certain countries. Brazil is just getting hammered in the Sao Paulo area. I saw some video of devastating flooding that was just absolutely scary. The same thing is going to apply for a lot of European countries. You know, they're not really on the side of that jet stream, which is going to create a lot of torrential rains, but it's going to go. It's going to go that way, and they're going to be in the same situation that we are here in the United States. It's just a matter of time. So this is a pretty good map to check out, and the animation of flood and high flow conditions map for March. And this is on the USGS website. You see the little tab up here, and you can check it out. It's definitely something to watch. When we get into these situations like this, I'm looking at it sometimes 2 to 3 times a day. So we're going to go ahead and exit out of here. And for anybody concerned about these floods, there's a website called floodlist.com. Or just go into your Google search engine and type in current flood situation United States, or current flood situation wherever you live. Because folks, look, we all know that people lose their lives in these flash flood situations. Dams and levees break like they did in Iowa and Nebraska. And, you know, people lose their lives. So it's better to be safe and knowledgeable than to be sorry and dead. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of this. And, you know, it was pretty devastating. I was actually shocked at some of the footage that I saw yesterday and today. But let's take a look at some of this. One of their first articles here was floods in Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, as rain and melting snow push rivers to record levels. We'll go ahead and check this out. And it states right here, you know, combination of rain, melting snow, and ice jams has caused rivers to overflow in Iowa, Nebraska, and South Dakota, prompting evacuations and dam releases. And here's the thing, folks. You know, when it comes to the dam infrastructure, they really can't risk damaging the dam, meaning allowing so much water volume to back up just to protect the community, because if they do that, they may have a catastrophic failure at the dam, causing it to break. And at that point in time, again, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. If that dam breaks, well, that is a sudden release of millions of cubic yards of water just freely flowing. And if you're in the path of any of that, buildings, houses, forget it. It's gone forever. And if it happens at a point in time, at night, when people are sleeping, well, again, it's common sense. The loss of life is going to be much, much higher. So, again, if you folks live in any of these regions, any of these states, start paying close attention from this point on if you're in any of these flood zones. And these flooded areas, they expanded very, very rapidly from the shores of these rivers. So that was something that was very unusual, but again, there were some breaches in floods and levees that did create that situation. But we're going to go ahead and check out more here in a second. Now, if you guys are into Twitter, you can jump onto Twitter and search for the National Weather Center. Now, usually the National Weather Center, they have a link for each specific state, and you can follow that specific state. So again, I'll put this. I'll go ahead and I'll put this link in the live chat for you guys. If any of you want to go ahead and click on it, and put it in your favorites list. Definitely something to watch. And I was looking over here at AccuWeather, and I like AccuWeather. It's a pretty cool website. And once again, their headline, this was for today earlier, flood disaster unfolds in eastern Nebraska as rivers reach historic levels and levees fail. So that's a big issue, folks. None of us really know how old some of this infrastructure really is. How much force can it take? How much volume of water can it really hold back in an emergency situation? Apparently, this one failed. And dumping that amount of water all at once is just, it's like walking right into hell. Let's take a look at this quick video. Oh, here's a cute little doggy. Wait for this commercial to go by here. We'll go ahead and let this play. Like I said, you can hear the power of that water. Go ahead and start that over one more time. Now, folks, if you don't realize it, that was a road.
Recovery starts with a call.
That was a road that water washed over. A road, and it was gone. It destroyed that road instantaneously. Just destroyed it. This was coming off of the USA Today website. Once again, Nebraska slammed by worst flooding in 50 years after massive bomb cyclone. And they kind of got the worst of both, because they got dumped on with snow, cold temperatures, and then what slung around right behind it was a rapid warm up and some rain. And then you could see rescue workers literally, he's only in ankle high water at the time, but, you have to rescue people in rafts. And the situation got worse. And this was only updated. It was published at 11:50 a.m. They updated it about 30 minutes later. And, well, there were the Black Hawk helicopters, or the big rescue helicopters. We'll go ahead and take a look at this this video that was from a tweet by the governor, Pete Ricketts. Let's check it out. Yes, those were people standing on the roof. Go back to where we could zoom into that. You can see there's folks, they're standing on the roof. And if you pan back here, you can see that this is all relatively flat land. There's no mountains and there's no hills. It's relatively flat. But you could see the expansion all the way over here. See if I could open this up a little bit. Well, it's a vertical video. You could see all the way over here, all the way across. And the video just doesn't do this justice, because this expansion of water, my God, that might have been about 1/4 mile wide. And you can see the water's moving very, very rapidly. So, once again, this was an emergency situation. This literally came out of nowhere. The governor called for an immediate state of emergency. And, a lot of people lost their houses and their property. I have not heard about anybody losing their life as of yet. Let's just hope that doesn't occur. Here is another pretty good view of how expansive this was. So we'll go ahead and let this play. Oh, this was just a photograph. Or is it? No, it's a video. There you go, folks. When I said that other short video did not do this flooding justice, this panoramic view from the helicopter does. You can see just miles and miles and miles of flooding. And again, these areas are just relatively flat, and it's going to be very hard for this water to recede, because it really doesn't have anywhere to recede to. So they're going to have to rely on absorption, the ground absorbing the water. So if anybody, in these areas that are farmers, they may have very serious damage to their soil. Their upcoming planting season may be interrupted. And situations like this, folks, can lead into food problems, with wheat and crops that these farmers grow, that each and every one of us rely on. And just your everyday run-of-the-mill products that you buy in the grocery store, whether it's a box of, Kraft macaroni and cheese, if you look at the ingredients, there's that wheat byproducts or corn byproduct. And that byproduct, if the manufacturer doesn't have that byproduct, they can't make that box that you buy on the shelf at the store. Or if they do, they have to get it somewhere else, and they may have to pay a higher price for it. And then that's when you start to see increases in the cost of food. And that's something that could be very detrimental to each and every one of us in this country. We take a lot for granted living here in the United States. We really, really do. A lot of people in other countries don't, they don't have the luxuries, really, that we do in this country. And I really hate to see situations like this occur, but it's going to become, I really hate to say it, but a normal occurrence from here on out. There are reasons why this climate change is occurring. And for all of you that follow me here on Planet X News, you know the reason. You have seen this happen. You have been watching it for the last couple of years. You've been listening to me warning everybody from 2016 to today that these situations were going to ramp up and they were going to occur, and this is going to be the world that we live in. And we have to adjust. We have to get smart, and we have to obtain the knowledge to keep ourselves alive. That is a fact. So that was in Nebraska also. We're going to go ahead and jump out of there. Is there any more on there? Oh, yeah, there was something else too, folks. You got to watch out for a little bit of that fake news. They had a little fake news broadcast on here that one of this nuclear power plants was devastated. This Cooper nuclear station, and it wasn't. However, the flooding of a nuclear power plant, that could be absolutely devastating. I've never been a fan, and I'm still not, of nuclear power plants. But, if a nuclear power plant gets flooded really bad, we got a big, big problem. So, by the grace of God, this tweet that somebody put out about this power plant being shut down because of a flood was just fake news. So that was Nebraska. And then I really hate to refer to CNN, the crap news network. Excuse me. But, they had a decent video here. Where is it? I think it was here. This was a good little informational video about what exactly is a bomb cyclone. Normally, you see these bomb cyclones form off of the coastline, usually over water, and right along a coastline. That's what made this situation out in the middle part of the United States with that bomb cyclone that just rolled through. That's what made it very, very strange, is that it just formed very rapidly in the center of the United States. Literally over land. No oceans anywhere around. But because of the conditions and the erratic jet stream and the flow of that warm air coming up from the South Pacific right across the country of Mexico, and it just merged together. It created that twisting motion or that vortex, and bingo, cold air on top, warm air on the bottom, and bingo. You got snow disasters to the north of the bomb cyclone, and you have rain disasters and wind to the south, which spawned, once again, a lot of tornadoes. So I was watching some footage of these tornadoes again, and wow, man, they are scary. I don't know. I would rather face a hurricane, a Category 5, than, an EF4 tornado. Because these tornadoes just rip the living hell out of everything. But I think this is a little video. I think this meteorologist explains kind of in layman's terms what
So what do you think about Friday?
what a bomb cyclone is, and we'll let this little commercial play, because I had a lot of people emailing me and inboxing me and asking me to explain what a bomb cyclone is and how do they form. It's relatively easy. We'll listen to it.
Bombogenesis definitely sounds like a scary term. A bomb cyclone is a low-pressure system that has undergone bombogenesis. In fact, storms that undergo this weather phenomenon can be rather destructive, causing a lot of damage. But in the meteorological sense, bombogenesis simply means a storm that drops 24 millibars within 24 hours. So you basically have a storm that is rapidly intensifying. In this part of the world, we see these storms rapidly intensifying because you have the cold air from the north combining with warmer air coming in from the Gulf Stream. We see these in mid-latitudes, and in the wintertime, many times we refer to these storms as nor'easters that can bring a lot of wind, rain, and snow to the northeast.
Now, you notice, folks, how they never mentioned anything about these types of bomb cyclones forming directly over the center part of the United States. They're more affiliated with, like she said, nor'easters off the coast, out in the ocean, and the flow of that warm air coming up. That was a really, really rare occurrence. But again, because things are changing so rapidly, we may possibly see something like that again this spring. It's hard to say. There are more updates. Again, this was all today. These were evacuations, and these orders were issued for parts of Sanders County as these levees broke and just inundated the entire area. And this is Nebraska. So again, look at the distance. I mean, that's pretty incredible. Let's see if we could widen that out a little bit. Let's see. There are more photographs. And this is just a small wooded area, but you can see the water rushing through here. Go ahead and expand this screen so we can see this a little bit better. So if you take a look back here at this house, that water level, I would have to say that's probably a good 3.5 to 4 feet of water. And it's already about halfway up, so that might even be more. That might be about 5 feet of water. And you got your little duck right there. He's enjoying it. But the people that lived in that house, they sure as hell didn't. And, you got your evacuation people out there trying to help. Here's another short video. This is in Nebraska also. And you can see, I mean, this is like standing out in the middle of a lake. Let's see what the video has to say. I know there'll be an ad, so. No sound on it, which is good. But we'll see what this video has to say.
This is probably the most widespread flooding damage we've had in the last half century. So there is a lot of damage out there, and we want people to continue to stay safe. People have died. This is not something that is a normal occurrence. This is a devastating effect that's had on the area and the state.
We were getting very nervous early to mid-morning yesterday. The levee was nearing its capacity, filling. We ordered evacuations in about a third of the community. We had almost 1,000 people displaced, housed in 5 different shelter locations.
It's kind of scary, kind of hectic. You know, I didn't think I was in the area, and it turns out that I was close enough to the levee.
I heard this crazy whistling sound that just scared the heck out of me. And somebody rang my doorbell. And it was a police officer and told me I had to get out because there was water coming.
You guys know where I'm at?
And I thought, oh my God.
So what do? Cross your fingers, say a few prayers?
Run like heck.
We lifted that order earlier this morning as we saw water levels decrease and things stabilize.
Last night, with the aviation rescues, we rescued 34 people, 7 dogs.
We needed to get the heck out of there. There was no point staying. Everything's ruined. And they got there as soon as they could. This is way more water than anybody was imagining.
Well, there you go, folks. You heard what the one guy said. He said that I didn't think that it was coming. I didn't think that it was going to get to me. But within a matter of a flash, it got to him, it got to his community and his neighborhood, and now he's in a shelter. So let me stop that video up here. Down here, these were the flood stages at 1 p.m. today, and this was for eastern Nebraska. And, you know, you can see these rivers, and there's a bunch of rivers all right up here. So they have a whole system of rivers. And bingo, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You got 10 river reporting stations all at flood stage. So again, very, very dangerous situation. And don't be like one of these people that said, oh, I didn't think that it was going to make it to me, but it did. And again, folks, like they say, don't try to cross over. If you're in a vehicle and you see a flooded out road, use your head. Do not try to cross, large areas where roads are flooded out. It only takes a few inches of water to whisk your car away, overturn your vehicle. Last year, we had a tragedy here in the Pittsburgh area where a woman tried to cross over a road similar to the picture that you're seeing on your screen right now. And it overturned her small compact car. And as it overturned her car, it flipped it off of the road into the creek upside down, and she drowned, and she was not able to get out. So heed those warnings. If you see floodwater in front of you, back up, go the other way as fast as you possibly can. But heed the warnings. Just heed the warnings and know what is happening in your neighborhoods, in your towns, in your cities, in your states. And again, I'm going to try my best to keep track of everything that is happening with this weather. It's just, yeah, it's not good. We saw this video. This was the large panoramic video from the helicopter, showing you this wide, expansive area in Nebraska that was just turned it all into lakes, as you can see. And again, there's nowhere for this water to recede to. It's just going to have to go through a natural absorption into the ground. And yeah, as they say right here, that area is considered our corn belt. So let's hope that this doesn't continue, because corn is a vital part of this country's economy, not only for food, but, they manufacture ethanol for your gasoline. And you know damn well, if something occurs like that and affects the gasoline, they'll be jacking prices up. And you'll be paying, $4 to $5 a gallon for gasoline. Even though 10% of the gasoline has ethanol in it, they'll just make any excuse they can to gouge us. You know that's a fact. We're going to jump in real quick to the null school map here. And I have set up, now these are the current temperatures. And this is for today. This is for actually right now. And the reason why I'm pulling this up is the temperatures are going to start to increase. So anywhere where you see this green area, this is warmer air. Now, I'm not saying it's real warm like in the 70s. We can actually click on it and give us a reading 37 degrees Fahrenheit. So that is above freezing. But this is the area that we're looking at right here. So as I click, 38 degrees, 43 degrees, 47 degrees, and these are current temperatures right now as we speak, because this information is live and up to date. So as we back off of this a little bit, as I was telling you in the beginning of our broadcast here, this polar vortex, it was down over the entire part of the United States in the middle here. You can see how rapidly its recession has become. Not so much over this part of the country, but it's going to be settling back. And the reason why is it's going to get pushed back by a new jet stream that's coming through. And this jet stream is going to change everything very rapidly. And we'll take a look at that. And here you go. Now, this is the current jet stream as we speak. Let's just take a look at this. You have a wide band straight across the Pacific. Now, this is all fairly moderate air. I mean, it's not super warm. That's not what we're going to be worrying about back over here. But as you see, as that jet stream dips downward here, it's going to start getting warmer. And then you see where the jet stream moves from. It moves from out in the Pacific, a very, very quick dip, and straight across Mexico. These portions of Mexico, the temperatures are fairly warm. Well, as a matter of fact, let's just check the temperatures in this area real quick. And these are the areas where it's going to be going over. So we're looking at temperatures here, 70 degrees, 77 degrees, 75 degrees. Now, up in the mountainous areas, 53 degrees. Okay, now like I said, it's not that the air is super hot, but it is hot enough, warm enough, where once that jet stream starts to move up this way, you are going to see a rapid warm-up. Now, you'll see part of the jet stream coming down right here, and it's all converging right over this area where we are seeing all of the flooding. Remember, now this air that's converging downward, this air is no longer Arctic air because we saw the recession of that big polar vortex. It moved backwards. This air is warmer now. This air is even warmer. So you are going to have a rapid warm-up. Let me just go ahead and stop that so we have just a plain map. You're going to see a rapid warm-up all through this area. And you can see the river connections. So here's where I'm at up in here. All these rivers. That's the Ohio River. All these rivers, all these areas, and this doesn't include all of the smaller rivers, but you can see this area is going to be just one big disaster zone. And if I am right and correct, this is going to be moving straight to the East Coast. Just in a matter of time, folks. Give it a week to 10 days, if that. So if you live in any of those states, Kentucky, Tennessee, the western parts of the Carolinas, the western part of Virginia, West Virginia, even my area down south here in Alabama, Mississippi, Missouri, any of these areas, you're going to have to keep your eyes and your ears wide open for alerts. Pay attention to your weather, because if you don't, you're going to be like that guy that said, I didn't think it was going to reach me. I didn't think it was going to happen. No, it's not going to happen to me. And as soon as you start thinking that way, Murphy's Law kicks in, and it happens to you. So let's all stay alive. And we're going to take one more look. Let me go ahead and start this. And we could advance forward. So I'm going to advance forward to the 17th. And this is for tomorrow. And what I'm trying to show you is that this jet stream is going to start changing rapidly. We have one huge band all the way halfway around the world. And then there's another band way down here around the other half of the world. This band over here, the leading edge, is dangerous. And this is what's going to create a massive amount of headaches for, I would say, probably a good third of the United States. Now, folks that live back here in the Midwest and the West Coast, they're going to have some great weather. They're going to have some great weather. But that great weather is going to be like a wolf in sheep's clothing. Because I'm telling you right now, I'm warning everybody that lives anywhere near the Sierra Nevada mountains, either on the East Coast or the West Coast of the mountains. If this trend continues, you are going to see massive catastrophic flooding, landslides, and mudslides in the foothills of those mountains that will be unprecedented. So this was just moving one day ahead. We're going to move to the 18th. Now you see things starting to change a little bit more. You'll see this warm-up zone right here. And again, that air is catching all of this warm air, and now it has dipped even further, and you see where it's going, right over the south. So this is going to include states of Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, almost the whole entire state of Florida, Virginia, and then getting up in here into West Virginia, Maryland, and all of the East Coast states that are right along the shoreline. And very, very weird vortexes. You see this one right here. This is just totally erratic. I've never seen anything like this in my life. And we'll go one more day to the 19th. And it continues. So you see where all this warm air is going to come from. Let's just hope and pray that we don't have any more heavy dips in cold air that come down like this and form a huge low pressure trough. Because if that occurs, which the models are showing it's not going to, but if something changes and it does, look out. The whole center part of the United States from, I would say, Texas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, all the way to the eastern seaboard will just be under the gun for tornado activity, heavy rains, very, very violent thunder, lightning storms. I mean, this is all going to occur. It's literally, knocking on our door. we could take a look at the temperatures to see what might occur. Now, this is the 19th, and this is what I was talking about. You see how the recession of all of the Arctic air has completely removed itself from the whole western half of Canada. And again, folks, all of this area up here in Alberta, Ontario, all of these communities up here, look at this. So their weather is usually not like this, even in March. So the Arctic air has completely removed itself. What do you see? Rivers, 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 rivers. And these areas up through here, Alberta, it's all relatively flat until you get to the base of the Rocky Mountains. So you may start to see flooding in the state of Washington, in the northern part of Idaho, Oregon, Montana. And you could see these rapid warm-ups. We'll check the temperatures. 38 degrees, 45 degrees, 39. And these, I don't know the exact time. This may be according to the time that we're at right now on the clock. And we'll see a little bit of lingering cold air around my area. But then, I think by the next day, that all goes bye-bye. And this cold air starts to recede very, very rapidly. And we get a pretty good warm-up. The only colder air that you see will be in the Rocky Mountains right there. But the rest of the United States will start to warm up pretty rapidly. Too rapidly. And again, all through the rivers, we're going to see a very, very rapid flood situation. So please be on guard. There's one more article that I wanted to share with you guys. I wrote this article because I was doing some research on this whole climate change fiasco. And I could see now the way that they're kind of disguising this. And the United Nations, I can't stand these people. I swear to God, they don't know their ass from a hole in the ground. But, they come out with all of a sudden this urgent action. Urgent action, excuse me, urgent action needed to protect humanity and the environment. All of a sudden, they don't ever want to give you the real reason. So as I start researching the material, and I got their report, I read the damn thing online, and it started getting me mad because it was just all full of lies. Full of lies. And once again, well, I'll just read the first paragraph for you. A United Nations report released Wednesday issued a blunt warning about the effects of human activity on the Earth, projecting that air pollution and other environmental consequences could lead to the premature deaths of millions of people over the next few decades. Human activity, air pollution, and other environmental consequences. Are you serious? With all of the money that the United Nations has, they can get the best scientists in the world, and that's the best that they can come up with? Ladies and gentlemen, you are looking at nothing more than a conspiracy. That's what you're looking at. It has already been proven by climatologists and other scientists that man is only responsible for 5 to 7% of this so-called global warming. 5 to 7%. Nothing in the report said anything about our solar activity. Nothing. They didn't say anything about what is occurring with our sun. Nothing about our magnetic poles shifting. Nothing about the ocean levels rising. Nothing about the sudden ice melt in the North Pole, which I've mentioned to all of you many, many times, folks. The ice melt in the North Pole is at a tragic level. If you don't believe me, start doing a little research on it, and you're going to find out. I mentioned in my last live stream about the albedo factor. And albedo means the reflectivity of light off of a, we'll just say a white surface. The white surface meaning the ice and snow in the North Pole. The sun reflects off of it, or the sun simulator, whatever you want to call it up there now. It reflects off of that ice. The thicker the ice, the better the reflection. But that ice isn't thick anymore, folks. It's like paper thin. So it melts much faster. Leading climatologists are already saying now that they are very, very worried about this upcoming spring and summer and fall in the North Pole. Let's just use this terminology. They're freaking out. Because all of that rapid ice melt produces a heavy flow of all of that fresh water into our saltwater oceans, both the Atlantic and the Pacific. It disrupts those generators, those current generators, as they call them. The Atlantic Ocean generator has already sustained serious damage to it. People wonder why we are seeing massive fish kills in our oceans. But nobody can step up and tell you the real reason. Oh, we don't want to alarm the public. So just lie to them. That's right. Just lie to the people. And then an emergency situation occurs, and because you lied to all of the people, you now cause death. Because the people, us, were unaware of these emergency situations that are brewing, and you decided to just keep it to yourself. Because you didn't know how to express yourself and tell the world population or tell your country. But now you see the sneaky way that the politicians are squeezing their way into this climate change and climate chaos. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the Green New Deal. Folks, that's all a ploy. Somebody can't be that damn stupid, but it was a way to get the information out there softly so people could make fun of it, but at the same time, you're hearing it every single day, and it's soft disclosure. And then in a year from now, when things are really, really bad, they'll come out and they'll say, well, hey, American public, hey, world population, we were talking about this in 2019, remember? And in the meantime, you can't remember because you've done drowned already and you're dead. Think about it. Remember what I said a few weeks ago. Take those blinders off. Think outside of the box. It's time we get down to some really, really critical thinking. We already know what's out there in space. We already know what is affecting our sun. I called these shots from 2016 until today. I showed all of you the evidence for years. Now, the sun is going into a solar minimum. Hardly any activity on the sun. And what does that mean? Our magnetic shield decreases. What happens? More cosmic rays, more solar radiation, more impacts from the solar wind. We are just in the beginning, folks. We can actually be looking at a decade, 10 to 15 years of this. And as each month goes by on your calendar, there's no end in sight. It does not get any better for this time period. I'm not just giving you my personal reflections on this. These are scientific facts. But you're not going to hear too much about this in the mainstream media. You're going to hear it from truthers like myself and many others that study these subjects. Now, you're not going to hear it from some well-to-do scientist who's getting his bank account padded by funding at a university because he doesn't want to cause an issue with his checkbook and his funding, so therefore he knows what's happening or she knows what's happening, but they're not going to say jack. And that's not fair. We're going to be changing a few things up here at Planet X News as time goes on. I had a few people leave me some pretty stupid comments over the last couple of days, dealing with me talking about the weather. But folks, I've been talking about the weather situation for over 3 years. I've been warning people about this day for over 3 years. Maybe you weren't listening to me that long, but you better listen to me now. Don't be like that guy. Don't be like that guy in that video that we just watched. I didn't think it was going to get to me. But it did. And look where I'm at. I'm holding my blankie in a shelter. And that guy's lucky. So we all do need to start getting down to some preparations. I've mentioned to you guys before, think about what you personally need. Get your little plan together. You may not need that plan today, or next week, or next month. But just imagine if all of a sudden you need that plan 6 months from now. Or even a year from now. And then you'll think to yourself, wow, thank God I was prepared. Thank God I put that bug out bin together. And we were able to grab that from our house with our important papers and whatever else we needed. And we threw it in the truck or the SUV or the car and we were able to get out. And you had food and water and a medical kit. and you had a form of light, whether, you get a little LED lantern, you had batteries, you had a form of protection. Folks, keep money, cash, with you at all times. Because if something happens with power outages, and you say, oh, I got $1 million in the bank. Oh, but guess what? The ATMs aren't working, and neither are the credit card or debit machines, so you can't buy squat with that plastic card in your wallet. So keep that emergency cash. Maybe get yourself a lockbox at Walmart. Throw a couple $100 in it. Lock it up. Put it in your bug out bin. Forget about it. When that time comes, it's there. You're not scrambling for anything. I go out to my shed once a week, and I take a look at what I have. And I got a huge shed. Well, let's put it this way. You could probably park a small car inside of it. Almost a third, one side of that shed is stocked from the floor to the ceiling with these bins. I think I've gone a little overboard because I could only fit 2 of those bins, one in my trunk and one in the back seat of my car, and split. But I have them all labeled with black magic marker right on the outside, a list of what is inside of each one. In an emergency situation, I could grab the critical ones, throw them in my car, and I could get out of Dodge. If I had to, I could travel across country and live on what's inside of those 2 bins. So, just a little bit of preparation, folks. We just don't know what can occur. The power outages, we saw so many power outages several weeks ago with that massive, crazy, out of nowhere windstorm that just moved across the entire United States. I had issues here in my neck of the woods. One community, just a little bit north of me, between me and the city of Pittsburgh, 175,000 people without power in a blink of an eye, and that included 2 hospitals. They didn't have, the hospitals were running on generator power for 72 hours. Some people did not have their electricity back on for 7 days. 7 days. So it's not that I'm changing my whole format here at Planet X News about weather. But folks, we already know what's lurking out there. I haven't been able to obtain any new photos from any of the NASA satellites because I think that I've showed them a little too much. Whether they're cleaning up their data now, I don't know. But all I know is I have all of my evidence. I have all of my observational photographs. I have it all. And then from time to time, when I show all of you some of these pictures, people leave me comments. Oh, that's old. Oh, you showed that to us already. Well, hey, guess what? Mind your P's and Q's, man. We have hundreds of new people that subscribe to Planet X News every single week, every single day. Maybe they didn't see it. So just kind of bear with me. Be polite to the newcomers. And if you know so much, help these folks along. Because, in the long run, folks, it's going to be us against them. And you know who them is. Big Brother. They're not going to give a damn about us. One of the biggest problems brewing in this country right now is the threat of a civil war. There are several European countries. Their governments are fearing civil war. Look at France. Wow. Every single weekend, the yellow vests are going at it with the French riot police, tearing up their country. But I got to hand it to the French. They're sticking up for what they want, what they deserve, and the leader of their country is a piece of crap. Same thing happening in the UK. It's happened in Spain. It's happening in other countries. We see what's happening in Venezuela. We have political upheaval just about worldwide. We got to watch these things. Watch everything going on around you. You know, we saw this tragedy down there in New Zealand yesterday. And I was reporting on it for MFA Media Group. And I caught all the information, probably 45 minutes after it happened. I had gathered all of my information and posted my news article onto our MFA Media Group website. I shared it, on our Facebook page. I shared it on the Planet X News Facebook page, my public figure page, my local news page that I run. And what did Facebook do? Within 2 hours of me sharing my article, they suspended my Facebook page because they said I violated a community standard. What community standard? I wasn't showing any blood or guts. I was reporting on the facts as they were coming in. And I appealed that decision early this morning, and I wrote up a nice little legal brief, and I sent that appeal over to Facebook. And 2 hours later, they accepted it, and they dropped the suspension. Very tragic situation. I do believe that we will see more of this, whether they're staged, whether you want to call them false flags, you call it whatever you want. We're getting to a time and a place where the world that the Lord Almighty created is not such a pleasant place anymore. It's just not. It's sad. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream now. I hope that you were able to take some of this information, consider it valuable, hopefully learn from it, and you never know. This information may save your life. Keep your eyes and your ears open. Remember, now the weather is one of your worst enemies. Ladies and gentlemen, stay safe out there. Have a good weekend. You'll be hearing from me soon. This is Scott from Planet X News. Thank you for watching. Take care, folks.